Welcome to the first episode of the Incense Hour. Today, I'm just going to be talking about some books that I have bought recently and have started to kind of look at. And I'm going to see how it goes. This is just to get an idea of what the future episodes of the podcast might be like. So, I'm just going to jump right in here and start talking about the first book that I most recently bought. It is the Berlitz Greek Phrase Book and Dictionary, and it's a really nice little book that has countless phrases and words in Greek. And what's nice about it is that it has a little bit of a prelude in it and just information throughout that, if you're going to Greece, would be very helpful to know. And it is $9 in the US. And if you're in need of Greek learning material, I would suggest that. The next book is one that I haven't read much yet, but it is Philokalia by Skylight Illuminations, and it is a collection of Eastern Christian teachings, so prayer, watchfulness, and stillness, and it has commentary by Aline Smith, and it's a nice book. Lots of stuff in that. So, if you want to learn more about Eastern Christianity and whatnot, then I would suggest this, and that's Philokalia. Very nice. And the third book that I wanted to talk about is one that I've read all the way through, and it is quite the book. This book has garnered a lot of attention from so many people. It's on the bestseller list, New York Times, and it is by a very well-known author and pastor, Kyle Idleman, and it's called Not a Fan. You might have read it yourself, I don't know. And the thing about this book is there is an actual course that's built around it of the same name. So, I just want to talk about this a bit more in depth than the previous two books. I read this, it was about a year, almost 2 years ago, and it's quite interesting. It has many useful and compelling points in it about how we live our lives and how we perceive things. He calls us to challenge the way we believe and the way we live out our lives. And so I'm flipping through it a bit, getting reacquainted. He talks about being spirit-filled, for example, in one chapter. And he is quite adamant about being more than a fan of Jesus. It says the little subtitle, if that's the right term, is becoming a completely committed follower of Jesus. So that's what it's about. It's about becoming completely committed. Now, the more cynical side of me thinks that it's probably just a self-help book, And it really isn't just a self-help book. But there are, ironically, a lot of fans of not a fan, which I think is funny. Quite funny. And, I could read the back for you guys. It says, "Are you a fan or a follower? The dictionary defines a fan as an enthusiastic admirer. Fans want to be close enough to Jesus to get all the benefits, but not so close that it requires a sacrifice. Fans may be fine with repeating a prayer, attending church on the weekend, and slapping a Jesus fish on their bumpers. But is that really the extent of the relationship Jesus wants? Jesus was never interested in having admirers. It's not fans he's looking for. Not a fan challenges you to consider what it really means to call yourself a Christian. With a direct frankness that you're not likely to hear in Sunday school class, Kyle invites you to take an honest look at your relationship with Jesus. His call to follow may seem radical to us, but Jesus desires it for every believer." So, that is the back of the book, the little teaser or whatever. And I'm just very, very, intrigued by this whole shebang. I really don't know what to say. It's been quite a while since I read it. But what I do remember from it was, it's kind of funny actually, I was thinking to myself throughout reading this book, I wonder if he is being a hypocrite or not. Is he actually being a follower? I just remember thinking that for some reason, and this was, mind you, this was before I had a faith crisis, if you will, of my own, before I reevaluated what I believed and really thought about it for myself and examined to my core everything. And even then I was wondering, I had a little just nagging thought in the back of my head that it would be funny if this was just all hypocritical. Yeah, that's a little harsh thing. That sounds a little harsh, but I just had that thought. And I think he, as a pastor, he's supposed to be, I guess not really supposed to be anything, but, he has a job to teach people, as it were, to lead people in a congregation of parishioners, and he's an author too. He writes books, and he does videos, kind of like me. I haven't written a book yet. I've tried. I might get there one day, But this is just the first episode of this podcast. I'm really just testing this all out. I don't have any notes. I don't have any I didn't really think about what I want to say before, but I did have some things I wanted to say, but I just don't know how to relay those to the listeners out there. But I'm going to use this book and this idea behind the book, the idea that Kyle Idleman has with this book, is hopefully a jump start to maybe get the juices flowing and hopefully talk about something worthwhile instead of rambling. So I was thinking for a topic for the first episode of the Incense Hour, and I got the idea for the podcast today. It's a Wednesday. I was out driving and I was thinking about my personalized plates that I'm getting on my car, and they're going to say Anesti. And so I was thinking about that, and I was thinking back to my videos that I have filmed and have yet to put out there at the time being. And it's a little disheartening, I worked on the videos, and now I just need to get them out there. But I thought, well, now I've had some experience with podcasts and audio only stuff, and I really like doing that. It's simpler, it's easier. I can still get the same effect of, if I were to deliver a message, let's say, out, and I can get what I want to say across without having to be on video. And I like radio. I appreciate the whole DJ thing. I really like that. So, and podcasts. I listen to some podcasts. I used to listen to them a lot more, but I think you get what I'm saying. I thought it'd be a good idea to start that up again, because I have done that before. So I was thinking of that today as I was driving to the DMV or whatever, the tag agency, and I was thinking of a name. I couldn't think of a name, but it really just came out of nowhere. It's like into my head, and it was Incense Hour. I thought, okay, that sounds peaceful. That sounds really nice. I just went with it. Didn't really think about it too much. And so you are listening to the Incense Hour. This is the prelude to the Incense Hour. This is not the first technical episode of the Incense Hour. And I don't think it will be an hour long. Don't worry. I was thinking under half an hour, if at a half an hour. We're at 14 minutes right now. So, if you're still listening to this, congratulations. But I'm just testing the waters again, kind of wading back in, thinking about what I need to say. I don't think it's what I want to say, it's what I feel like I need to say. And it's just such a difference from before. Before, I don't think I needed to say anything. Now I feel like I need to say it. Maybe I don't need to say it. But yes, I have before me this book. And a fine book, sold a lot. Right there in red it says over 500,000 copies sold. Red, bold font, right on the front. Kind of interesting, I guess. And it's a very serious looking book. I'm going to describe it to you if you haven't seen it. I don't have video to show of it right now, but it's a black book. It's like, 8 by 11? I don't know. Smaller than that, actually. And it has white font, sort of an Arial font, I guess. Just a simple font, but a strong font, I would say. It's easy to read. It kind of catches the eye in a peculiar way. And the title is Not a Fan. It's all in lowercase and has a period right behind it, like not a fan, period. And that is white, and it's just, right in the middle of the front. Very simple design. The more I look at it, the more I feel things. I don't know what I feel, actually. And then his name, everything's lowercase, basically, except the subtitle. But his name is in red, and then, like I said, 500,000 copies sold is in red. I am interested in designs. I think designs, in marketing, how you do things is important. I think you have to think about it to make it, stand out. I think that's what they were going for with this. The odd thing about the front cover, though, is it's all black, yet if you look closely, there's like a darker little lines that start near the bottom and wave, sort of like a little wave up, and then there's another one and another one that goes to the right side. It looks like creases in some fabric. I don't know what that's about. But, yeah, overall, aesthetically simple and strong. I cannot shake the feeling now, and I must be really focusing on my feelings about this book. I can't shake the feeling that the design was very, deliberate. There it is. So, on the back, it's got a Life Church pastor commented on it, and it says, Jesus never asked us to sit on the sidelines and cheer for his cause. Yeah, I guess I'll talk about that. The whole idea behind this book is to be a completely committed follower of Jesus. And this idea is probably not new. Thinking off the top of my head, there's been fanatical people throughout the ages, since the early church, since the church was founded, and they weren't just fans, and I think he probably mentions that in the book. I probably should have read through this again before I decided to talk about it, but, I do remember quite a bit. We took a class over it in youth group, stuff like that. So I have a basic idea, and I've seen other of Kyle's works. I'm by no means an expert, and I'm not going to delve so deep into this that I rip it apart or anything. But, alright, let me get back on track. Oh yeah, the Life Church quote. There have been, Christians throughout history that were real Christians, and this book is not full of new ideas, per se. This isn't really a review of the book, though. It's the idea. The idea is, if we write something, you'll be a completely committed follower of Christ, and I don't believe that. I'm just going to say right now, I'm taking a turn right now. Here we go. Christianity is, and I sort of regret saying this, but I don't regret saying this. Christianity is being misrepresented constantly today in our country, in our world. People don't know what true Christianity really is, and they think they do. I mean, they really do think they do. And all the time we have these new books that come out that say something different or say something new. And my comment earlier about self-help books is a lot of these preachers are just self-help gurus. The authors, the ones that Kyle, it's about the individual self, and it's help. It's trying to help. Maybe not this book in particular. This is very different from the self-help books that you'd find from, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, you'd find from Joyce Meyer, Joel Osteen, T.D. Jakes, I'm guessing. I haven't read any of his stuff, but judging purely from reviews and from, I can't even say that, from the cover, be strong, this is your moment, or whatever. He's always got a picture of an elephant on his thing, which I appreciate, because I like elephants. However, that's all it is. It's you could take that and put it side by side with try to think of a self-help person. I can't think of anyone, because I've never read a self-help book save for what I just listed from those authors. So those are the most famous. Those are three of the most famous, if we include Kyle, four of the most famous preachers of our age, of today, in America. And they're just mostly about what I would call, tips and tricks. Do this, do that, don't do that. And really, it's it is self-help, I guess. And what I was saying with misrepresentation of Christianity, the wrong idea of what it really is, you can believe this or not, but Jesus Christ, who was historical, who obviously was special, very special, founded a group, per se, founded a church when he had his ministry, and that was back, early 30s AD, like 33, they say. And so, in that moment that he founded something, and that's what we call the early church now, But the question is, did that early church ever die out? Well, some might say yes. Some might say definitely. Others might say no. And others still say that it's still around. And I would be basically in that camp, that it is still around and it hasn't changed. Well, if you look at Christianity, there were the great schisms, and it went crazy from there. The first schism wasn't too drastic, I would say, and I'm talking in 1054, East and West. But the other great schism was the Protestant Reformation, and that is where, years down the line, enter Joyce Meyer, Joel Osteen, T.D. Jakes, and friends. So, that is Protestantism, plain and simple. I know I have spoken with people, and I've read, I love the internet. I'm on it a lot. I read forums, I watch YouTube videos, I do my own stuff on here, and due to the fact that I'm very interested in religion, I've watched many videos on religion, and you go to the comment sections of these videos or forums, news articles even, people are gonna voice their opinions, and they'll comment whatever they feel, without remorse, really. It gets very aggressive, and they call it flame war when that happens. So, I've seen things that say, like, oh, if you're not Christian, then, or if you're Catholic, you're not Christian, or if you're not, an evangelical, biblical believing fundamentalist Christian, then you're not Christian. Maybe not in those words, but they this is what they type, and I'd imagine if I spoke with any of these people in person, they would say the same thing. I would think, maybe not, but you might. I've had an experience where the other person, this person that was saying, if you're Orthodox, you aren't Christian. When he was called a Protestant, he said he wasn't Protestant, but he was bashing Roman Catholics, saying they aren't really Christians, and it's this kind of thing. And it's funny when the Protestant doesn't recognize that they're a Protestant, even though everything about them is Protestant. They think they're just Christian, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that is not true at all. You're a Protestant. The reason is the Protestant Reformation started a landslide of many ideas being able to come out into the open, and Catholics and Orthodox alike would call that heresy. A lot of what came out of the Reformation, and it's hard not to agree with that statement of calling it what it really is. If you believe that Jesus Christ founded a church, then you look at the Reformation, and it changed many things that were tradition. It comes down to tradition, I think, mostly, and then dogma. I think what's funny is Protestants probably would say, I don't like dogma, or we don't have dogma, but really they do. They have hundreds of years, depending on their sect, their denomination. Some are older, some are fairly new, some are really new, and there seem to be new ones every few years. They're not very well known, but they're out there. Grassroots movements and such. They're trying to find the original church. They're trying to get back to the way it was in the Bible. But the funny thing is, the church was around many, many years before the Bible. The Bible that we have today, okay, there are many versions of the Bible as well. Once again, thank you, Protestantism. And I'm not talking about just, different languages, but versions, different translations, yet in the same language. So, for example, English, what was the first English Bible? The King James, right? If I'm correct there. I honestly don't remember. I'm fairly sure it was. Okay, well, years later, there's a new one, then a new one, you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know how many versions of the Bible there are in English alone, and it's kind of important. It's not really a big deal, because, you can compare them side by side, but it is just that, by that fact that there's so many Bibles, well, is that proving that the Bible is infallible? Is that proving the Protestant that says, we're biblical? Well, what version? And they'll say, oh, just King James. That's always funny. Some will say that the King James is the only true version, which is kind of funny, I think. It makes sense. It's the earliest English version, but still, if you go by sola scriptura, then eventually you're going to run into many problems, and one is thousands of denominations that have come out of this, and that is a problem because it's more division than before the Reformation, and confusion. Now, the thing I agree with about the Reformation, what I think is good is, for one, going against the church, the Roman Catholic Church. There were some bad things going on, apparently. And Martin Luther was one to go against it. And he didn't really start the Reformation, but he definitely, let's say he didn't pour the kerosene on the fire, or on the wood, but he definitely lit it. There were some people before him, not that very many, but they were there in Europe, and they were, starting this process. But Martin Luther got angry, and he started fighting. So it's not all bad, but for the longest time I thought that it just didn't make sense that there were so many denominations. When I started looking into history, it makes sense, because if we think about it logically, people think differently, and it's guaranteed. So if you have a bunch of people that all have their own ideas and have their own philosophies, not even theologies necessarily, their own ideas about God, about what the truth is, then they're going to start expressing those, let's just say, and then they find people that will agree with them, and they start their own church. So you go from one church, a unified church, to whatever. You have that one church that was bound together with tradition, and the passing on of authority for almost getting close to 2,000 years. And then you have this idea that we can decide, and then you have the splits and splits and splits, and each little split has emphases on various things, so you get so many different interpretations and ideas, and some say that's a good thing. So it doesn't bother some people. This, in my opinion, it's wrong to have such division. But if I look at it from the other side, I guess I could see how, you can just say, they're all Christian and it's all good then. Well, that brings up a problem. Once again, the point of not a fan is to be a completely committed follower of Jesus, to be a Christian. And so that is all fine and dandy. That's what you should want. If you believe that He's Lord, then you're going to want to do whatever you can, whatever it takes to be in with Him. Well, so with Protestantism, so many more Christians. There's so many more churches that you can join and say, I am definitely a Christian. But there will be others just down the road, a different denomination, that will say, we are completely a Christian. And then you look at their beliefs, and basic beliefs are the same, but why do you need that separation? Are these differences so great that you need to identify as Baptist or Methodist or Presbyterian? Well, yes. In fact, if you look at there are, like, for example, the Anabaptists versus the, let's just say, Baptists. That there's a major difference, and that is in baptism, doing infant baptism or not. And so that's a fundamental difference. Now, it may seem silly to the outsider, but this caused violence between people at times. This was a big deal to them back in the days, definitely. And that's what Protestantism has brought upon us, and not only the mega church, the whole American Christianity that has delved into politics far too much, and etc., etc. But it and that's not just a Protestant thing. There are other countries out there that probably might have worse problems, but what I'm saying is the differences in these denominations are large, so it is division. So how does this connect to not a fan? I don't know. I believe in unity. I think that there's a unified church that is still, the one that was there in the beginning. You can think that too. Yeah, you might believe that same thing and be in a different denomination. That's fine. But yeah, go ahead. I'm thinking about it now, and it's my point with the whole denomination thing was that the Protestant idea is that you only have to say, I believe in Jesus Christ, and you are guaranteed everlasting life. And that's most Protestant, that's the procedure in most Protestant circles and denominations. And then it's faith alone, so sola fide, and then like grace alone and scripture alone. Like, these are the pillars of Protestantism, which that's great. I think about it, and grace is something that I do kind of struggle with. Thinking about it doesn't get me anywhere really, but the idea that I was taught through many different sources, many Protestant sources, even it's a Christian thing, grace, but Protestantism seems to really very much just hammer it, and it just seems so bizarre. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So let's say you commit murder, and you repent and you become a Christian. Well, then you're good. You're a Christian. But your whole life, maybe you just didn't believe, you didn't do anything good. You ended up murdering someone, and that was sort of the moment, and you're like, all right, I gotta change. And so you convert, you're born again or something. And, that is, you're saved, right? Well, what about transformation? What about changing? What about living the full life? And in Orthodoxy, you call it theosis, but that just means becoming like God. Each day is a struggle to be pure, to be holy, righteous, even, as saint-like as you can. Where's that fit in? With grace alone, you can be caught in the cycle of sin, deviancy, and it wouldn't matter ever. But hey, that's Christianity's call to fame. So says the evangelical. Come to Jesus because you'll be saved. Doesn't matter what you did, what you're doing. Well, okay, let's stop there. That's the thing. That's the double standard. You'll have this message of grace, and then even in the same sermon, they'll turn around and say, hey, that's, all good, grace, it's great, but here's some sins and stuff. In fact, I was at not a new church. I've been to this, been with this congregation before, and I was with a friend, and we were listening to, it was a college group, and so we were listening to a preacher, college-age guy, really nice guy. He seemed he's very sincere, very, just open and humble. So it seemed. He talked about how this church was a home to everyone, and it was the first night of meeting, weekly meetings, getting together. Very nice experience. Singing and everything. But when he was preaching, he talked about some issues, and I thought he did mention grace, I think. But regardless of if he mentioned it at the time, he sells that idea. Just come to Jesus and you'll be saved. But what he focused on for what seemed like quite a bit of the little sermon was sin, struggle, I guess. And I just had the thought that something is odd about this whole idea of grace alone. And this was not even close to my first time thinking this, that there's a problem with grace alone. I've thought about it, trying to think about it deeply in the past, and finally I feel comfortable with what I believe about the subject of salvation. I think I've found the way, to be very honest, and grace alone just doesn't cut it. I myself feel that it is everyone's responsibility to change themselves. After years of praying for release from whatever, insert what you will. This is my example of, I'm not going to list specifics, but, I believe in Jesus. Nothing worked until, I just changed my whole worldview. What is Christianity? What is the church? And that's when I noticed change. So that is strong evidence to me that this whole grace alone thing is really one of the largest shortcomings, the biggest shortcomings of modern Christianity, of Western Christianity. And I really believe that it is a product of the Protestant Reformation. I think we would look at medieval and ancient the Catholic Church, all the way back to the beginning, and we'd say they're probably very prude people, very strict, almost tyrannical about some things, but that's the thing. It's about pure life, rules and dogma, practice, being strict about it isn't a bad thing. It's not completely meant to, it's not meant to crush people, I don't think, even the Catholic Church, I don't think ever was trying to crush everyone under its power. They really believe in this thing, I think, and I'm thinking of the Pope, and back in the day, the one that our buddy Martin Luther was really mad at, and the councils and stuff, the ones that did all the diets, yeah, okay. He came up with this, idea of faith alone, whatever, and having grace alone, and that's, it changed the world, and it continues to. But does it cut it? I don't think so. I think, like I said, it's one of the biggest shortcomings of Western Christianity, and I say Western because, I think any Christian can fall into this idea very easily, but I'm focusing on the Protestant. I think they created it, and I look back to the ancient teachings and prayers, and another thing that the evangelical will criticize about even Catholics and Orthodox is, they say the same things over and over again, and that's against the Bible, and repeating words and structured prayers, and that's somehow bad. Well, it's a practice. It's like meditation. It's healing, really, these prayers. And since I started saying the Jesus prayer, I think it has really been a large part of changing my life. The Jesus prayer is, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And you can say it all day long. Monks on Mount Athos say it all day long. When they're painting icons, they say it. They're not, from the outside you think they're not sinning. They're monks for the Lord's sake. But they say it constantly. It's a part of them, and it's a prayer. You live your life as a prayer, and that's what theosis is. I really see that, and that's what I want for my life. I want transformation, and I look at grace alone. I don't think that no, you have to work at it. You have to work at it, and then that's the second criticism. Besides, I'll just say dogma is the first one, which was the repeating prayers. I guess that could be considered some sort of dogma, a rule, a restrict, you have to do this, which it really isn't, but it's a tradition. So, okay, the first one's tradition. The second thing that the evangelical, the Protestant, would criticize about the Catholics, I'll just call everyone Catholics here, for Eastern and Roman. The second is what was it? I'm sorry, I lost it. I was there in my head. You have tradition, and then tradition, and please bear with me. Really, this is the struggle right now. Works. There it is. Lord have mercy. Works are seen as something that is unnecessary for salvation, in grace alone, not works. And it depends on how you define works, really. No, the whole thing about works is that it doesn't guarantee salvation. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is, it's important, It is important. And the Protestant will say that too, or else they wouldn't do anything ever. So it's a hypocrisy, I think, again, or some sort of, I wouldn't even know what to call it. It's just an odd thing to be against works, because you basically are saying it. So much like grace, which they talk about grace a lot, and then they focus on sin, and then they sort of give away to not sin, yet what happened to grace? It's all convoluted, and same thing with works. Works in my mind, I would say, could be prayers. It could be doing good things for other people, mostly. I would just say, working on your salvation, and the red flag. It's grace alone. You can't earn your salvation, and that's what all the other religions do, not Christianity. But like I said, grace alone is a big problem. Cycle of sin is what I'll call it. For me, experience, you have to work at it. You have to work on your life. God won't work on it alone. Grace alone, maybe at the end for salvation, you'll still be saved, even though maybe you didn't you're not going to live the perfect life, obviously. So yes, grace would be a part of that. But, that's the thing. It's not all about grace. It's not grace alone. I don't think you're going to get much grace if you are just evil. That doesn't work in anybody's mind. Not even the Protestant, I would think. They may say, grace alone. But, if all you had to do is to believe in just one act of Christ, which was crucifixion and resurrection, which I'm going to say that's one whole act, that seems, this may sound weird, but it seems sort of limited, so to speak. What would be the point of the crucifixion? Well, to give us the strength maybe to change our lives in some way. And I think that's what they're getting at with, their version of Christianity, as it were. So I do understand it a little more, I guess I would say. However, that's still, it's not grace alone. You can't call it grace alone. There would be no transformation. There would be no theosis. It's finished. Jesus said it is finished, yes. What though? It's obviously, something's not finished. And I for one feel that I can definitely say that it is not finished. So this has been a much different path than I thought this would go when I picked out a few books and said I would talk about them a bit. But thank you, Kyle Idleman, for that. the last 5 minutes here, I'm gonna really sort of try to wrap things up, and I hope you enjoyed this sort of rant, my musings, if that's the right word. I just love life now, and I really, want to talk about stuff. I'm finding the words to use, and I'm using them. I would encourage everyone to check out all my other stuff that I have out there, and be prepared for more. I think this has gone pretty well. In the future, I will burn actual incense when I do this to make it more authentic. But I don't know about the audio quality totally on this, or the volume. I was told that my last video, my vlog, the volume was low. I apologize for if I've never seemed to be able to get the volume right on videos. The ones that I have taken with like my webcam, for example, the audio just seems to be low on that all the time. And this is a microphone, so I have no idea. But yeah, I have some ideas, and I want to pursue this. I want to keep going with this, and any suggestions for future topics is needed, because this was just pulled out of my head, and I don't know if it passes my critique for what is good and whole and holy, so to speak, for AnestiTV. And this is Anesti Radio, or Anesti Pod, as in podcast. Whatever you want to call it. It is the Incense Hour, and it has been almost an hour. So, in the beginning when I said I wasn't sure if it would go even half an hour, I guess it is an hour. So, I know that's not convenient. It's a pain to try to listen to it all, and I'm very much gonna keep it to a shorter time frame when I actually get on board with continuing with this hopefully weekly little audio thing. Maybe 15 minutes, maybe half an hour. We'll just see. I originally thought that it would be Tuesdays at 8, maybe Wednesdays at 8. We'll see. But this is just a test. This was a test. And I like to talk, I guess. I hope you like listening. I really hope I open up your brain pathways and your soul. It's about your soul, your spirit. And it's about theosis, transforming, changing, metamorphosis, embracing life and living like you mean it, living every day as if you were the Lord, really. And that sounds like a good topic for the next episode. Can you live a sinless life? That will probably be a shorter one. So, stay tuned for that. Suggest more topics. I want to keep it predictable with the releases of this, and this has been Daniel with AnestiTV saying, well, thanks for listening. See you later.